Because DC Comics games that don't feature Batman or Superman are pretty hard to come by, Justice League Heroes: The Flash. I'm Roger the Retro Gaming Puppet, and welcome to Obscure Old Games. And while people are pretty stoked about Batman and Superman fighting each other, don't forget there'll be a handful of other heroes in the upcoming Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice film, and this includes The Flash, who just so happened to get his own video game back in 2006 on the Game Boy Advance. Justice League Heroes: The Flash. If you're unawares, The Flash is a DC superhero who's part of the Justice League alongside folks like Wonder Woman, Martian Manhunter, Superman, and Batman. He made his first appearance in Flash Comics #1 way back in 1940, and while he's not nearly as popular as Batman or Superman, he has managed to get 2 TV shows. The first was on CBS and it lasted 1 season in 1990. The second is currently in its 2nd season on the CW network. It's pretty popular, I'm sure you're aware of it. Flash has also been confirmed to appear in Dawn of Justice alongside Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, and Aquaman. At least. This game came out to tie in with the 2006 release of Justice League Heroes. See, that same year, Activision released Raven Software's 3rd Marvel dungeon crawler, Marvel Ultimate Alliance, and DC was racing to catch up. Sound familiar? And so they released their own dungeon crawler, Justice League Heroes, developed by the Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance folks, Snowblind Studios. Meanwhile, the GBA was on its last legs commercially. While the last official GBA release was in 2008, only about 20 games came out in all of 2007. But Warner still wanted to support it, so even though there was a DS version of Justice League Heroes, they opted to contract WayForward Technologies to make Justice League Heroes: The Flash for release in late 2006. WayForward is one of my favorite development houses. They're responsible for stuff like Batman the Brave and the Bold, Double Dragon Neon, Aliens Infestation, and of course, Contra 4. So what we have here is a belt-scrolling beat-em-up that actually uses the hero's powers. Imagine that. Players are tasked with helping the rest of the Justice League eliminate an army of robots causing trouble all around the world. You start in the Flash's home base of Keystone City, but quickly hit various other locales in the DC universe, including Gotham City and Metropolis. The core gameplay is pretty simple. Hitting the B button punches, hitting the A button will send Flash zipping to the nearest enemy, and hitting both together does a jump kick. The R button makes Flash move super fast, but the effect is that he continues moving at normal speed so the player can easily control him, and all of the enemies are super slow. The L button will call in an assist from a fellow Justice Leaguer, of which there are several. Each one has 2 animations, and they're all cool to see, but every one of them has the same effect, which is doing damage to all the enemies on screen. The game doesn't break new ground, but it's executed very well overall. Each stage has a supervillain as a boss, starting with Gorilla Grodd and ending with Brainiac. The enemies range from generic street thugs to all kinds of robots, many with different attack patterns, and this works very well. For the most part. But, well, I'd be remiss if I said the game was perfect. I mean, it's good, but it seems like, given the time it came out and the platform it came out on, Warner just didn't want to invest the money or the time for WayForward to sand down all the rough edges. Okay, well, first thing is that Flash doesn't have any defensive capabilities to speak of. There's no block or dodge or anything. If there's another enemy on screen, you can zip to it to avoid an incoming attack from the enemy you're fighting, but the A button does nothing if you're right in front of the only enemy on screen, making avoiding the last enemy standing's attacks almost impossible. And many enemies can break your combos with their attacks, making this extra frustrating. The worst are these guys right here. The second thing is that sometimes, when you try to zip to an enemy, you get stuck on something between you and that enemy, and you have to walk around to find a good sight line. Again, these things are kind of nitpicky and they don't ruin the game, but they can be really annoying. Overall though, the game walks a good line of being not too difficult and not so easy that it becomes stale. It's also short enough to beat in a single sitting, but it does have a save feature if you're playing on the go. The length stops the game from overstaying its welcome and becoming boring. Plus it has a couple of extra modes. A boss rush, which is neat, and a fun race against Superman to see who's the fastest man in the world.
Kinda weird that Flash's game makes better use of Superman than most Superman games, huh?
There's also a couple of really nice touches that show WayForward's passion for the source material. The cutscenes are well done comic-style affairs that really show the Flash's smart alecky nature. There's also a boss fight with Professor Zoom that takes advantage of the two being equals in speed. Finally, there's a cool trick WayForward put in. After you take the final hit on your final life, hit the R button to speed up. Black Flash will appear, and if you can beat him before your speed meter runs out, you get to keep fighting.
Overall, it's a solid game. If you're a comics fan looking for a better-than-average brawler using a character who's largely underutilized, look no further. And the game is really common too, which means it's super cheap. I wouldn't pay more than $10 for a copy. So hey, thanks for joining me. I'm Roger the Retro Gaming Puppet, and I'll see you next time right here on Obscure Old Games.
Fastest man. Ooh, hey, watch it! Fastest man alive. Fastest man alive. Ooh, hey, watch it! Fastest man alive. Ooh, hey, watch it! Fastest man alive. Uh-oh.